Today's tutorial we will be focusing on scientific notation. Scientific notation plays a big part within chemistry because we're going to take a look at really large numbers and really small numbers and how to relate them through scientific notation. So let's look at a really large number. The first thing you want to do when you're doing scientific notation is locate the decimal point. So if there is no decimal point, you can assume that it's right at the end. Once you've located your decimal point, you're going to go either left or right depending on your number. You want to make sure that you have one coefficient and then your decimal place. So for this one, we're going to count over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. By moving your decimal point, now you're going to write it as 1 times 10 to the 6. Now, it's going to be a positive exponent because we are taking a large number and condensing it into scientific notation. Now, let's see how we would write that into our calculator. Within your calculator, if you're using a TI, times 10 is going to be represented by E. If you're using a Casio, it literally has a button 10 to the N. For this tutorial, we're going to be using a TI calculator. Now, let's look if we have a very small number. We're not talking small number as in 1, we're talking like one that has a few zeros or a few numbers out. So, like we did before, we're going to locate our decimal point, and we're going to go until we have that one coefficient. Now our decimal point isn't going to be on the side of this one, because that would still be 0.1 and not have one coefficient. Our decimal point's going to land here. Now let's count over. It's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now the way we're going to write it, we're going to have our coefficient 1 times 10 to the negative 6. Because we were moving to the right, it is going to be a negative 6. Last time we moved to the left, which made it a positive 6. If you get confused about whether you're going to the left or the right, look at your number. If it is a large number, it will have a positive exponent. If it is a small number, it will have a negative exponent. Now let's write it as we would see it in our calculator. So this would be 1e to the negative 6 if you are using a TI calculator. Now this is condensing it into scientific notation. Now let's take a look at expanding it. So let's do our examples again. We have 1 times 10 to the 6. When you are taking it out of scientific notation, first, as we did before, we're going to find our decimal point. If there's no decimal point, it's going to be right after your number. Now this exponent is going to show us how many spots we're going to go over. Since it is positive, we are going to expand it to the right. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And this is where our new decimal point is going to be. So we're going to have 1 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 zeros. And 1 extra 0. If you can see, it got cut off by the camera. Now, we've expanded it out, so let's make sure it makes sense. We have 6 positive, so our number should be getting larger over here. Now let's do the opposite. We have 1 times 10 to the negative 6. So find our decimal point, and we're going to move it 6 spots this way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now these zeros that we place here are just going to be placeholders. We'll see in the next tutorial what they have to do with significant figures and these placeholders. So this one would only have 5 zeros as the other one had 6. If you can't remember, expanding is going to the right and this one's going to the left. Make sure it makes sense by what you have as your exponent. You'll note that when you're condensing, you're going to the left, and when you're expanding, you're going to the right. Or, what I think is easier is if you look at the exponent. If you have a positive, you're going to a large number, like so. Thank you for watching this tutorial. The next one will be scientific notation, adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing. So stay tuned.